I found myself standing in the famous wine country, surrounded by lush vineyards and rolling hills, when unexpectedly, I bumped into my ex-husband. It had been years since our divorce, yet there he was, wearing a sarcastic smile as if he had stumbled upon some great amusement. "So I hear you're stuck in dead hell because of some futile fertility treatments," he sneered, his words laced with condescension. I could feel a mixture of irritation and amusement bubbling inside me. All those years, he had moved on, remarried, and started a family, thinking himself victorious while looking down on me. But little did he know, life had some surprises in store. With a slight smirk, I rested my hand on my slightly swollen belly, a silent gesture that spoke volumes. "I wonder who really needs fertility treatments," I replied calmly, watching his expression morph from smugness to confusion. It was then that I decided to unveil the truth that would shake the very foundation of his perceived happiness. No amount of mockery or clinging to the past could alter the course that fate had set in motion. The beginning of his downfall was imminent, and he was oblivious to it. "My name is Mary, and I work at a travel agency. My job involves proposing various travel plans to customers, ensuring their satisfaction. It's a role that brings me immense fulfillment." Stephen, my ex-husband, and I had once shared a workplace romance that led to marriage. He had joined my branch as the new manager, a man of calm demeanor who always treated me with kindness. We had spent long hours working together, sharing moments of joy and support amidst the chaos of busy seasons. But as time passed, I realized that my dreams extended beyond the confines of marriage. Despite Stephen's concerns about my well-being and his suggestion for me to embrace the role of a homemaker, I couldn't shake the desire to continue pursuing my career and my dreams. I had lived frugally, saving up money to fulfill my aspirations, and I wasn't ready to let go of that independence. So, I made the decision to keep working, even after marriage, determined to carve out my own path. Our encounter in the wine country served as a stark contrast between our fortunes. While Stephen had found solace in his family life, I was on the brink of a revelation that would redefine our futures. As the years passed, my husband and I found solace in our mutual understanding and respect for each other's work. Despite working at different branches, we returned home every evening to find comfort in each other's presence, cherishing the simple happiness we shared. But as time went on, a subtle sense of anxiety began to creep in. 2 years into our marriage, the absence of a child weighed heavily on my mind. Growing up as an only child, I had always longed for a larger family, and now that desire seemed to elude me. "It's taking quite a while for us to have a baby, isn't it?" I finally broached the topic with my husband, feeling a pang of unease at our inability to conceive. My husband, ever understanding, reassured me with his calm demeanor. "There's no need to rush. They will come when the time's right," he said, his words offering a semblance of comfort. But the lingering doubt persisted within me. I wonder if I might be infertile. "Maybe I should get checked out at the hospital," I confessed, my heart heavy with worry. In his gentle way, my husband encouraged me to seek medical advice, his unwavering support a source of strength. "Don't be so down on yourself. Everything's going to be okay," he assured me, his hand soothing as it stroked my hair. Reluctantly, I embarked on a series of tests, each one a silent prayer for a glimmer of hope. And when the results came back, revealing no abnormalities, my husband's joy mirrored my own. "That's great news," he exclaimed, his smile a beacon of hope. "See, what did I tell you? There's no need to worry." His optimism lifted my spirits, dispelling the shadow of doubt that had clouded my thoughts. Yet, there remained one more test to be done, one that would require my husband's participation. "It's likely that you won't have any issues either, but just to be safe, I want you to get tested," I explained, hoping he would understand my concern. But his response caught me off guard. "Why should I get tested? Infertility is usually a woman's issue," he stated firmly, his pride wounded by the implication. I could sense his reluctance, his hesitation to confront the possibility of any shortcomings. And though I understood his reservations, I couldn't shake the nagging worry that lingered in the depths of my heart. "There's no rush. We can do it when you have the time, I offered, hoping to ease the tension that hung in the air. But as the day drew to a close, silence enveloped us, the unspoken words lingering between us like a heavy weight. And in that moment, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for us, and whether our love would be enough to overcome the challenges that lay ahead. As we stepped into my husband's family home to celebrate his mother's birthday, I couldn't help but admire the resilience and strength of the woman who had raised him single-handedly. My mother-in-law, now 65 and retired, had sacrificed so much to provide for her children, never once wavering in her dedication. I had always held her in high regard for her unwavering determination and love. With a bouquet of flowers and a thoughtful gift in hand, we were greeted by her warm smile. "Oh, what beautiful flowers! And a bath set, just what I needed," she exclaimed, her joy palpable. I felt a surge of satisfaction, confident that our gifts would bring her joy. But as the conversation shifted, her words took an unexpected turn. "I'm happy about the gifts, but I'm starting to look forward to seeing a grandchild's face," she remarked, her tone tinged with expectation. Her words hung in the air, casting a shadow over the room. I exchanged a nervous glance with my husband, hoping he would intervene. But to my dismay, he remained silent, leaving me to face the weight of her expectations alone. "I understand you're busy with work, Mary, but there are more important things than work, aren't there?" she continued, her gaze piercing. "You need to face your own health and think about starting a family. There are fertility treatments available nowadays." I bristled at the implication that my worth as a woman was tied to my ability to conceive. "I have faced my health issues. I've been tested, and there was no problem found," I retorted, my voice tinged with frustration. But her words had already taken root, planting seeds of doubt and anxiety in my mind. The deadline she imposed only served to amplify my fears, leaving me feeling trapped and suffocated by expectations that I could not fulfill. As we left my in-laws' home that evening, the weight of her words lingered, casting a shadow over our otherwise pleasant visit. And in the silence of the car ride home, I couldn't help but wonder how long I could bear the burden of her expectations, and whether my marriage would withstand the strain of unspoken resentments. As my husband and I walked home in silence, the weight of his mother's words hung heavy between us, casting a shadow over our once peaceful evening. I stole glances at his profile, searching for any sign of what he might be thinking, but his expression remained unreadable. Arriving home, he seemed intent on carrying on as if nothing had happened. "I'm starved, let's get dinner started," he announced, casually, his demeanor betraying no hint of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. Summoning all my courage, I broached the topic that had been weighing on my mind. "Hey Stephen, about what your mom said today," I began, my voice faltering slightly. "Huh? What about it?" he replied, turning to me with his trademark smile, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was forced. "She said she wanted grandkids, didn't she?" I pressed, my gaze unwavering. "Yeah, but since we can't have them, we just gotta wait, right?" he shrugged, seemingly unfazed. "No, that's not what I'm trying to say," I insisted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "You were the one telling me to prioritize my health over work and to consider fertility treatments. I faced the issue head-on and got tested, and there was nothing wrong." His expression shifted, and I could see the hint of defensiveness creeping into his features. "Why didn't you say anything back then? It feels like it's all being blamed on me, but it's not me who's not facing the issue, it's you, isn't it, Stephen?" I pressed, unable to contain my emotions any longer. His response was swift, his voice rising in anger. "What the heck? Always talking about tests. I already told you that the cause of infertility is often on the woman's side, and what Mom said wasn't wrong." "It's not my fault," he shouted, his face flushed with frustration. I recoiled at his outburst, feeling a pang of guilt for having pushed him to this point. This wasn't the man I knew, the kind and understanding husband who had always been there for me. And yet, here we were, at odds over something neither of us could control. But despite our heated exchange, neither of us was willing to concede ground. We remained locked in a stalemate, unable to bridge the gap between us. "I can't deal with this anymore. I'm hungry, I'm going to go get something to eat, he declared, storming out of the house, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence. As I sank onto the sofa, the weight of our argument pressing down on me, I couldn't help but wonder if it was my fault. Had I pushed too hard? Had I failed to communicate my feelings effectively? All I had wanted was to be understood, to work together with my husband to navigate the challenges ahead. But now, as I sat alone in the quiet room, the future seemed uncertain, and I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that our marriage was teetering on the edge of collapse. The quiet room became a sanctuary for my tears, the only sound echoing my own sobs as I grappled with the weight of our crumbling marriage. The next morning, my husband returned home in silence, his presence a stark reminder of the distance that had grown between us. "You said you were just going out to eat. Where did you spend the night?" I ventured, hoping for some explanation, some reassurance that we could mend the rift that had formed between us. "It doesn't matter," he replied curtly, his words leaving a bitter taste in my mouth as he brushed past me, leaving the question unanswered. As he left for work, I clung to the hope that time would heal the wounds of our first major fight. But as the days passed, his mood remained unchanged, his distance only growing with each passing moment. He began leaving the house earlier and returning later, his weekends consumed by mysterious absences that left me feeling more alone than ever. Our once cherished moments together became a distant memory, replaced by a silent, solitary existence that left me questioning where it had all gone wrong. "I can't even remember the times when we used to cherish our moments together," I mused, the ache of longing gnawing at my heart. What made us this way? Was it so wrong to suggest that test? But my husband's behavior only fueled my suspicions, his evasiveness leaving me feeling lost and confused. When he finally admitted to staying at a business hotel near his office, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. And then, one day, as I sorted through his laundry, I heard something drop with a clink, though nothing appeared to be out of place. It was only when I stepped back that I noticed the glinting object at my feet, a small earring, shimmering in the dim light. I picked it up, my mind reeling as I realized the implications of what I held in my hand. For a moment, I was speechless, the truth staring back at me in silent accusation. It was then that I knew, with a heavy heart, that our marriage was beyond repair. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered, replaced by a chasm of betrayal that I knew we could never bridge. And as I stared down at the earring in my hand, I knew that our story had reached its tragic end. I found myself standing at a crossroads, my heart heavy with the weight of betrayal. For too long, I had buried my suspicions, afraid to confront the truth that lurked beneath the surface. But now, faced with the undeniable reality of my husband's affair, I could no longer turn a blind eye. Summoning every ounce of courage within me, I made the decision to confront him head-on, to unearth the proof of his infidelity and bring an end to our marriage. The next day, I sought out a private investigator, determined to uncover the truth once and for all. And a few days later, the truth was laid bare before me, my husband's affair with a new employee at his branch office. She was young, pretty, and had fallen prey to his charm just as I had years ago. It seemed that his pattern of manipulation and deceit had continued, with me merely being one in a long line of victims. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, washing away any remnants of the love and trust one had once held for him. Frustration and anger boiled within me as I came to terms with the fact that our marriage had been nothing more than a sham. That night, as he returned home with his usual pile of laundry, I could no longer keep up the facade of ignorance. "You might as well have her do your laundry at her place instead of coming all the way home," I said, my voice laced with bitterness. He stopped in his tracks, turning to face me with a look of confusion. "What are you talking about?" "I told you it's work," he protested, but his words fell on deaf ears. I thrust several incriminating photos in front of him, each one capturing the moments shared between him and his mistress. "Don't play dumb with me. I dug up everything, and these earrings, weren't they the ones she was looking for?" I challenged, my voice trembling with rage. He froze, his eyes widening in shock as he stared at the evidence laid bare before him. And in that moment, I knew that there was no going back. I never thought you were such a womanizer. Let's just end this now. You can date her openly, I declared, thrusting the divorce papers into his hands. A tense silence filled the air as he stared at the papers, the reality of his actions sinking in. And then, without a word, he turned and walked away, leaving me alone in the aftermath of our shattered marriage. He burst into laughter, his words cutting through me like a knife. What's this, sour grapes? Are you jealous because we can't have kids? If you've got time to take pictures like these, why not focus on getting treatment so you can get pregnant? His audacity left me speechless, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. Who's really full of sour grapes here? I wanted to scream, but I bit my tongue, unwilling to give him the satisfaction of seeing me lose my composure. Divorce suits me fine. She's pregnant. I've been wanting to cut ties with you ASAP. I'm only thinking about my new family now, he continued, callously revealing the final blow to our shattered marriage. To learn that not only had he betrayed me with another woman, but that he had impregnated her was more than I could bear. I was numb, my mind reeling with disbelief as I watched him gather his belongings and leave, leaving behind nothing but a hollow shell of the life we had once shared. With a heavy heart, I made the decision to move out of the rental condo we had called home, severing the final ties that bound us together. As I packed up the remnants of our life together, I felt no nostalgia, only a sense of relief that I was finally free from the shackles of our broken marriage. But just as I thought I had closed the door on that chapter of my life, fate had other plans in store for me. As I tidied up the apartment one last time, the doorbell rang, jolting me out of my thoughts. Opening the door, I was met with the sight of a man I had never seen before, unkempt hair, dirty clothes, and a look of desperation in his eyes. He greeted me hesitantly, his words leaving me astonished as he revealed his story. 3 years had passed since our divorce, and in that time I had continued to save diligently, working towards my dream of a new beginning. And now, as I stood face to face with this stranger, I realized that perhaps this unexpected encounter was a sign that it was time to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. With a newfound sense of purpose, I bid farewell to the remnants of my past and embarked on a journey of self-discovery. And as I walked through the picturesque vineyards of wine country, I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the unexpected twists and turns that had led me to this moment, a moment of newfound freedom and endless possibilities. His own son was also facing financial difficulties. It was a twist of fate that neither of them could have anticipated. As my ex-husband stood before me, his expression clouded with disbelief, I could see the realization sinking in. The truth of his father's visit and the misunderstandings that had ensued weighed heavily on him, shattering the illusion of his supposed success and superiority. For years, he had believed himself to be living the perfect life, while in reality, he was drowning in debt and deception. And now, faced with the harsh truth of his circumstances, he had no choice but to confront the reality of his situation. I watched as the facade crumbled before my eyes, the arrogance and contempt he had once held towards me replaced by a newfound humility and understanding. It was a humbling moment, one that forced him to confront the consequences of his actions and the impact they had on those around him. As the truth unraveled before us, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure, a final reckoning that brought an end to the bitterness and resentment that had plagued our past. And as my ex-husband grappled with the shocking truth of his father's visit, I realized that sometimes, the greatest revelations come from the most unexpected places. In the end, it was a moment of clarity that brought us both a step closer to finding peace and moving forward with our lives. I watched as my ex-husband's expression shifted from anger to shock, his words faltering as he struggled to comprehend the gravity of the situation. For years, he had lived under the illusion of his own superiority, blind to the reality of his actions and their consequences. And now, faced with the undeniable truth of my pregnancy, he was forced to confront the possibility that the child being born to his wife might not be his own. As the weight of my words sank in, a heavy silence filled the air, punctuated only by the sounds of the bustling wine country around us. For a moment, it felt as though time itself had come to a standstill, frozen in the wake of this revelation. But as the shock began to fade, a new understanding dawned in my ex-husband's eyes, an understanding of the life I had built for myself beyond the confines of our failed marriage. It was a life filled with happiness and fulfillment, far removed from the turmoil and deceit that had defined our past. And as I stood before him, my hand resting gently on my slightly swollen belly, I realized that this moment marked a turning point, not just for him, but for both of us. For in that moment, he saw the truth of my happiness, the truth of my resilience in the face of adversity. But there was still a lingering question in the air, a question that hung between us, unspoken yet undeniable. And as my ex-husband's gaze lingered on my belly, I knew that the answer to that question would shape the course of our future in ways we could never have imagined. From my ex-husband. I hesitated for a moment before opening it, unsure of what to expect. Inside, I found a handwritten note, the words penned with a sincerity that caught me off guard. In the letter, my ex-husband expressed his remorse for the pain he had caused me and his gratitude for the lessons he had learned from our time together. He admitted his mistakes and acknowledged the hurt he had inflicted, but he also expressed a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. He spoke of his determination to make amends and to forge a new path for himself, one guided by honesty and integrity. He thanked me for the role I had played in his life and wished me nothing but happiness and success in the future. As I read his words, I felt a sense of closure wash over me, a final chapter closing on the tumultuous saga of our past. It was a bittersweet moment, tinged with the memories of our shared history but tempered by the hope of new beginnings. And as I folded the letter and tucked it away, I realized that our unexpected reunion had indeed been a crossroads, a moment of reflection and reckoning that had led us both to a deeper understanding of ourselves and each other. But now, as I looked towards the future, I knew that my path lay elsewhere, in the warm embrace of my new family, in the bustling halls of my beloved hotel, and in the quiet moments of reflection that reminded me of the journey that had brought me to where I stood today. As I read the astonishing contents of the letter from my ex-husband, a mix of shock, disbelief, and a hint of pity washed over me. It was a tale of deception, regret, and the consequences of one's actions unraveling over time. Despite the unexpected revelation, I couldn't shake off the resolve I had built over the years. My ex-husband's plight was a result of his own choices, and while I couldn't ignore the sympathy stirring within me, I knew that reopening old wounds would only bring more pain. With a firm decision, I chose to focus on the bright future ahead of me, a future filled with the love of my kind husband and the anticipation of welcoming our baby into the world. My ex-husband's letter served as a reminder of the importance of moving forward, of cherishing the present moment, and of embracing the happiness that awaited me. As I tore up the letter and cast aside the lingering shadows of the past, I felt a sense of liberation wash over me. The weight that had once burdened my heart lifted, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and determination. And as I walked hand in hand with my husband through the picturesque streets of wine country, feeling the gentle kick of our unborn child against my belly, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, with love, resilience, and unwavering hope for the future.